Kimi was very pressed after she finished eating her food and urgently needed to ease herself, so she asked the waitress where the restroom was located. She was directed to the restroom was located. She was directed to the restroom. However, when she got there, it was already occupied by another customer. Kemi, who couldn't hold it any longer, noticed a swinging door that led to the kitchen. Her eyes darted around, and seeing no one paying attention, she decided to peep through the door. When she peered through the swinging door, she couldn't make much sense of what she saw, so out of desperation, she went through the door into the kitchen. What she saw shocked her to the bones and made her want to vomit. Everything was dirty and irritating. There were a lot of dirty dishes piled up beside the cooking area, some of which had food scraps still stuck to them, giving off a pungent smell. Raw meat was left out in the open, with dozens of flies perching on it, buzzing continuously. The women who were cooking the food had dirty hair tied up in disheveled scarves, and their white aprons were stained with all sorts of things, oils, sauces, and even what looked like bloodstains from the meat. It looked as if those aprons hadn't been washed for a very long time. The whole floor was sticky and filthy, with puddles of murky water and leftover food scraps scattered around, and there were rats roaming freely all over the place, scurrying in and out of sight. Then Kimi saw the chief cook, a very fat dark woman wearing a sleeveless gown. Her teeth were very brown, stained from years of neglect, and the hair on her armpits was bushy and disgusting. Kemi watched as the fat woman scratched her dirty armpit with the spoon she was using to cook, and still used the same spoon to stir the soup without washing it. Kemi felt her stomach churn violently. Kimi felt utterly disgusted and almost wanted to throw up. She held her stomach with one hand and used the other hand to cover her nose and mouth because the smell and odor in the kitchen were unbearable. She quickly turned around, pushing through the swinging door to get back into the restaurant, feeling disappointed and irritated at the same time. When she stepped outside, the fresh air hit her face, and she rushed over to a corner, bending over to vomit everything she had just eaten. She couldn't believe what she had just witnessed. Kimi grew up buying food from different restaurants because she was too lazy to cook at home. She knew all the best and latest restaurants and buka joints in the state and had eaten at each one of them. Every night, she would pick a new restaurant to patronize, priding herself on knowing the best spots in town. Her friend, Amaka, would often try to advise her against eating out all the time. Amaka would say, "Don't you know it is cheaper and safer to buy things at the market and cook for yourself? Why do you always prefer to waste money on buying cooked food outside the house?" But Kemi refused to listen because she didn't see anything wrong with buying food outside. She was already used to eating out because that was how she was brought up. When she was still very little, her parents were always busy with work and business, so they didn't have time for the children or chores at home. Mr. and Mrs. Adebayo were fortunate to have 3 children, whom they named Kemi, Chidi, and Ngozi. But as soon as the children started going to school, their parents stopped giving them the needed attention. Whenever they were going to school in the morning, their parents would give them money to buy food at school. When they returned home in the afternoon, they would have to buy lunch from a nearby food vendor. At night, they would buy dinner and eat before their mother and father returned from work. Kemi, the eldest daughter, took up the role of a mother in the home. Kemi couldn't cook because her mother didn't teach her. Their father was a well-known driver who traveled a lot, hauling goods across different states. Most times, he would be on the road, away from home, for 2 or 3 months. He wasn't bothered about home. All he cared about was the financial aspect of the family. Their mother was a full-time businesswoman whose shop was located in the heart of the market, so she was always busy from dawn to dusk. She would leave home very early to escape traffic and return when the children were already asleep. Kami grew up learning to take care of herself and her siblings in the absence of her parents. She got used to the street life and its way of living. The three children grew up preferring junk and street food over freshly homemade meals. Before Kimi graduated from university, she lost her father in a tragic accident. Her siblings also started following their mother to the market to help her with sales because the business was booming and she needed more help as she grew older. After Kimi graduated from university, she was posted to a different part of the country to teach at a remote school for her compulsory service. When she got there, it didn't take long before she settled down and got used to the new environment. It was in this new environment that she met Amaka. Amaka was also a graduate who was posted to teach at the same school as Kemi. They became close friends and started living together as sisters. Unlike Kemi, Amaka rarely bought food outside the house. She would often go to the market to buy foodstuffs and cook them herself. But Kemi didn't know how to cook. As soon as Kemi settled into the new environment, she started exploring the area for street food vendors and restaurants to know which offered the cheapest meals with the best taste. Every single day, she would eat at a different restaurant to taste their food. Amaka observed that Kemi didn't buy any pots or plates for cooking at home and found it very strange that Kemi always preferred eating out and didn't like cooking. One day, Amaka told Kemi, "Don't you know it is safer and cheaper for you to buy things at the market and cook for yourself? Why do you always prefer to waste your money on buying cooked food from outside?" Kemi got offended and answered rudely, "Is it your money? Have I ever asked you for money? How is my life choice your business?" Amaka felt she was trespassing, so she apologized to Kemi and told her she was simply trying to look out for her. But no matter what Amaka said, it didn't change Kemi's habit of buying and eating food outside. One fateful day, Kemi and Amaka were on their way back from work when a very handsome and rich young man approached them. "Hello, good afternoon. My name is Tunde," the man said. He asked to speak to Kemi privately and told her he liked her. They exchanged numbers and started talking often over the phone. Tunde was a businessman who owned many branches of his company across the country. He would often take Kemi out to fancy, expensive restaurants, and it didn't take long before Kemi fell in love with him. However, one day, Tunde decided to visit Kemi at her home. Kemi welcomed him warmly and bought him a soft drink. As they were talking, Tunde's stomach started grumbling, and he told Kemi he was very hungry. He requested that Kemi cook for him because he wanted to taste her food. He even offered to take her to the market to buy some ingredients. But to his greatest surprise, Kemi told him, "It's a waste of time to cook food. Why don't we place a call to one of those fancy restaurants and order a delicious meal instead?" Tunde refused and insisted that he wanted to taste Kemi's cooking. When Kemi realized that Tunde was very serious, she opened up and confessed, "I'm sorry, Tunde, but I can't cook." Tunde was surprised. Kemi was a very beautiful and classy lady, so he found it very strange that she couldn't cook. He became very disappointed and left Kemi's house abruptly. When Amaka came back home, she found Kemi lying on the bed, looking very sad. She was concerned and asked what the matter was, but Kemi refused to open up to Amaka. Instead, she lied that she had lost some money, and that was why she was sad. She didn't want Amaka to mock her because Amaka had been warning her against buying food outside for a very long time. One afternoon, Kemi was on her way back from work when she noticed a new fancy restaurant along the road. It was a new place, and she had never eaten there before. She admired how beautiful it looked from the outside. The exterior design was luxurious, and it was always filled with customers whenever she passed by. One day, she decided to patronize the restaurant. She walked in and loved what she saw. It was beautifully decorated and classy, yet their food was quite affordable. This must be the reason why there are always so many customers, Kemi thought to herself as she went through the menu. A waiter approached her and asked what she would like to order. She made her order and it was brought to her promptly. The food tasted delicious, and from that day, Kemi became a frequent customer. She ensured she patronized the restaurant daily, and the waiters became familiar with her preferences. Sometimes, when her schedule was tight, she would place a call to the restaurant to deliver food to her office. However, less than a month after Kemi started patronizing the new restaurant, something strange happened. One afternoon, while at work, she ordered food from the restaurant. When the food was delivered, she started eating. But as she was almost done, she saw a dead cockroach inside the food. Kemi was shocked and confused. It was her first time seeing such a thing. Being a street-smart girl who often ate quickly without observing the contents of her food, she was horrified. She couldn't finish the meal and threw the rest away. Still, she foolishly dismissed it as a mistake. A week after the incident, Kemi fell seriously ill and was admitted to a hospital. She had a severe fever and diarrhea that almost took her life. After the doctor's diagnosis, he told her the illness was caused by a strange bacteria commonly found in very dirty places. Always make sure your kitchen and cooking environment is clean, the doctor warned. You're very lucky you were admitted on time. This illness is so dangerous, it could have killed you in days. Kemi thanked the doctor before being discharged and placed on medication. When she got back home, Amaka became her caregiver. Amaka would cook and ensure Kemi ate nutritious meals. But when Kemi fully recovered, she reverted to her old habits of buying food outside. To make matters worse, she continued patronizing the same restaurant where she had found the cockroach. It didn't take long before she fell sick again and had to visit the hospital for a second time. However, it was after her third illness that Kemi decided to investigate why she was always falling sick after eating at the restaurant. The restaurant looked neat and luxurious from the outside, and she felt there was no room for dirt in such a place. One fateful weekend, Kemi went to the restaurant in the afternoon. She ordered her usual meal, but this time she didn't eat it quickly like she used to. She carefully observed each portion of rice she scooped, ensuring it wasn't contaminated. When she was done eating, she pretended to be pressed and asked the waiter to point her in the direction of the restroom. When she got to the restroom, it was already occupied, so she decided to use the opportunity to look around the restaurant. As she ventured further down the hall, she noticed a swinging door that led to the kitchen. She peeped through the door and was shocked by what she saw. The kitchen was filthy. There were a lot of dirty dishes piled up beside the cooking area. Raw meat was left out in the open, with dozens of flies perched on it. The women who were cooking had dirty hair, and their white aprons were stained with all sorts of things. It looked as if they hadn't been washed in months. The floor was covered in filth, and rats were roaming freely all around. Then Kimmy saw the chief cook, a very fat, dark woman wearing a sleeveless gown. Her teeth were brown, and the hair on her armpits was bushy and disgusting. Kemi watched in horror as the woman scratched her dirty armpit with the same spoon she was using to stir the soup. She didn't even bother to wash the spoon afterward. Kemi felt like throwing up. She quickly ran back to the restaurant and sat on her chair, pretending like nothing had happened. Her stomach churned as she realized that many other restaurants might be the same way, even the ones she considered very clean and trustworthy. She thought about all the restaurants she had visited and the countless meals she had eaten. She began to wonder if they were all the same. When Kemi got home, she was deeply ashamed of herself. She wished she had listened to Amaka's advice in the past. That day, she made a decision she would start making her own meals. Kemi cleaned out her kitchen space, went online to learn how to cook, and then headed to the market to buy cooking utensils and ingredients. When she returned home that evening, Amaka was shocked to see Kemi in the kitchen. Amaka quickly changed into her house clothes and joined Kemi. Together, they prepared a meal. The food didn't look as beautiful and fancy as the ones Kemi used to buy at restaurants, but it tasted delicious. Most importantly, Kimi knew it was prepared with proper hygiene and care. Kimi continued learning how to cook through the internet and with help from Amaka. She stopped eating out and started taking home cooked meals to work. Her colleagues were surprised to see Kemi bringing her meals to the office, and some even joined her during lunch. Eventually, Thunder returned. He apologized to Kemi for leaving her abruptly after finding out that she couldn't cook. "I should have advised and supported you instead of walking away," he admitted. The two reconciled, and after a few months, they got married. Kemi's story highlights the importance of health, hygiene, and personal growth. Here on our channel, we aim to inspire change and self-awareness through impactful stories. Like, share, and subscribe for more content that adds value to your journey. Thank you for watching.